Good morning and happy Sunday, happy week 8 that starts tomorrow. I'm recording this video to start talking about how to revise and edit your writing. I know we didn't cover that in the first unit because we were covering a lot of stuff at the beginning of the semester and I didn't want to overwhelm you. So now we'll start talking about how to revise and edit your writing, not just for Unit 2 analysis and evaluation essay, but for any writing that you'll do in your career, either for another course, next year, for a job, for anything that, any kind of writing that you're doing. This is a suggested strategy and some considerations for you on how to revise and edit, and the difference between revision and editing. When I say revise your writing, what do I mean by that? And is it different from editing your writing and proofreading your writing? So let's get started. I'll be sharing my screen, show the presentation, I'll talk about it, and then at the end of the presentation, I'll talk about the discussion post that you have early in week 8 on Monday and Tuesday. So let's get started. Okay, so this is the presentation, and let's start by talking about difference or the overall strategy that I'd like for you to consider every time you are required or you're supposed to be revising one piece of writing that you've completed. It's 3 steps. The first one is selection. So you choose specific feedback to use. In my conference with you and looking at the feedback you've received from your peers, there are different comments about so many different things. Some of them about the analysis, some of them about the rhetorical devices, some about content, some about sentence level problems. You have lots of feedback. So the first thing is to choose the one that you will use to revise your writing. Second thing is prioritize. Which ones are more important? Which feedback is more important? And then you should start making a list of the most important, starting with the most important feedback to the least important feedback. And how do you determine the importance? You go back to the assignment sheet, you go back to the assessment rubric, as I'll say in a minute, okay? And then number 3, or that's sometimes the one step or the one stage that takes the longer time and effort, is you reflect on the feedback and revise. So you start thinking, how should I do this better? How should I revise that? How should I incorporate the rhetorical devices more? How should I add more argument or more evidence or more substantial claims, as we'll talk in Unit 3? So this is the point at which you start actually working on your revision plan, something similar to what we did in Unit 1, but then we are kind of like changing the approach in Unit 2 a little bit before we go to more reflection in Unit 3. So the revision plan, as we discussed in Unit 1, you create a revision plan from the feedback you receive. Arrange the plan in terms of priority and importance, as I said. And how you determine this, you check against the assignment expectations and assessment rubric. Where can you find these? Go back to the assignment sheet. It's on Blackboard under assignments, Unit 2. Read the entire document and you'll see that I have certain expectations to see, that I hope to see in this assignment. And you have the assessment rubric that I'll be using to grade your essay. If in another course, you're not quite sure about the expectations or how the paper will be graded, don't be afraid to infer between the lines what the professor is asking you to do, because whatever the professor is staying in their assignment sheet, this usually reflects their expectations and what they hope to see in your paper. If you're not quite sure about the rubric, or if they have specific assessment rubric to use in grading, feel free to ask. It's like, how exactly are you going to grade this? Or do you have any specific suggestion that I should be following as I revise this essay? So always talk to the professors, because they write the assignment sheets, they have certain expectations in mind based on which they will assess and grade your paper. Now, at the revision stage, let's first differentiate between revision and editing. Revision is global issues, whole text issues, the more serious, the more important issues in your paper. Like, for example, when I conferenced with you this week, most of my feedback has been on the analysis. How that some of you focus more on description rather than analysis. Some of you didn't do the visual rhetoric analysis. Some of you didn't use the rhetorical devices effectively in analysis or visibly or clearly in their analysis. So this is what we call the global issues, things that span the whole text from the very first paragraph to the very end of the conclusion. This is what we mean by revision, working on the ideas, working on the content and the substance of your essay. This is revision. Editing and proofreading, this is more focused on sentence level issues. If you have spelling, if you have grammar issues, if you have punctuation issues, and I'll be talking about that in a moment. So the first thing is that topic matches assignment description. So in Unit 1, for example, we talked about one point on the assessment rubric was that your essay should be about illiteracy. And then here in Unit 2, we're focusing more on analysis. Are you using analysis methods? Are you using the rhetorical devices and visual rhetoric elements that we read about and learned about in this unit or not? And then focus of the essay. Some of you started talking about something on the AUM website, and then during the course of the essay, they drifted to something else. They started talking about, for example, clubs and organizations in particular, or the tutoring service at WASC, or the events that happen at the Nest. And they lost their train of thought, and the focus of their essay kind of became loose because they went sidetracked. So make sure that you use the feedback I gave you and you received from your peers to refocus your essay on one object only, and then make sure that all your analysis and evaluation is centered around that particular focus. And the same for any essay. Many of us we get excited about what we're writing. So we start with one thing, and then it's like all of a sudden I'm writing about something else. It's like, wait a minute, how did I get there? It's like, because you just followed one idea after the other, and then that kind of drifted you away from the essential focus or the central idea in the essay. Idea development, do you have enough examples? Do you have enough support? Do you discuss all the relevant rhetorical devices that you can use to analyze that space, place, or web page of AUM? Do you have enough support for that? Do you use examples? Do you use images? Do you use phrases or quotes from the website? So this is what we mean by idea development, that I can read one or two paragraphs about this idea and I feel like, yes, I know more now about it. Not like it's chopped and I'm not sure what exactly you mean or where you're heading with the idea. Organization. Paragraphs and paragraph order. I'm seeing good improvement in this essay than the first one in terms of paragraphs. The first essay, I saw more like large chunks of text, or the entire essay is written as one paragraph. I'm seeing much progress with that, so that's good. But again, think of the paragraph order. Which one should come first? Which one will help the reader follow your analysis much better? Do I need to bring that idea earlier in the paper, or I can just keep it as is? And the same for any writing you do. Always think about the ideas and which one is essential for the reader to follow what you're saying and your argument. This essential idea should come earlier in the paper so your reader can follow what you're saying. Now, my strategy or my suggested strategy for you is If you received written comments, either from me or your peer, because I ended up putting written comments to the people I couldn't meet on Friday because of my meeting. Start by reading the end comments. End comments, these are the comprehensive feedback on the paper itself, on the whole essay. So as I said, this is the whole text problem that I'm seeing in your essay, and these are the ones that you should start by focusing on. The same for your peer review comments. I've seen that many of you leave these large comments at the very end of the text. So make sure that you start by reading these, because they summarize the more important points that you need to focus on in your revision. And then revise global problems, anything that we discussed, the topic, the focus, the organization, the idea development, revise these first. Make sure you spend adequate time revising and improving the content of your paper. And then read the marginal comments about global issues. If I or your peer left you some comments about, again, some idea development, some organization, connection between ideas and things like that, make sure you address these. And then I always recommend that you use a paper copy or a hard copy of your essay when you are revising, because it keeps your attention very focused on the paper instead of looking at the screen. And this happens to me personally. When I'm reading something on the screen, sometimes I miss some details or some problems, but when I'm reading on paper, my concentration is much better, and I can catch up more problems. Now, editing, as I said, is the proofreading at the sentence level. So this is not as important, but it's still important. This is not at the same level of importance of the global issues or revision. That's why we keep editing till the last stage. We revise first and then we edit. Read marginal comments about sentence level problems and fix them, okay? So check your paper for more instances of the same problems I mentioned. So if your peer or I have mentioned something like, you need transitions here, or your sentence structure, you use run-on sentences. If I mention it once, or if your peer mention it once, make sure that you check the entire paper that you don't have a comma splice or run-on sentence or verb tense problems. It doesn't mean that if I mention it once, this doesn't mean that it happened only once. Sometimes it's recurring problem, but to avoid repetition, I don't mention it more. Okay, so make sure that if your peer or I have mentioned something like that, to go over the entire paper and fix that problem. Read each sentence out loud to recognize structure and mechanics problem. This is one of the all-time favorite advice that I give for students. Reading out loud will help you identify problems. If the sentence sounds off, or it doesn't sound right, or if you keep reading without stopping to catch your breath, this means it's a very long sentence and it should be broken down into shorter sentences, for example. If you keep reading and it seems like, oh, wait a minute, these two sentences shouldn't be in one sentence. Maybe we need a semicolon between the two, or there should be a comma here, but because it's not there, you just kept reading, and I was like, there is something off here, okay? So reading your writing aloud, this always gives you some sense of where there is a problem in your writing. One thing I noticed in your writing, and this is not just for you, this is a typical problem I see in first-year students, flashy sentences. We think that if we use flashy sentences that are attractive, or just like it sounds nice, or it attracts attention or anything, these sentences actually are empty. They don't add anything to your content. They don't build your analysis. They don't add meaningful content or argument or anything important to your writing. For example, the internet is a great invention. Seriously, we are finishing the first 5th of the 21st century, if we're still saying something like that, this is pointless. This doesn't add anything to your content. Cell phones are magical. We can't imagine our lives without new technology. Technology brings us much convenience. It's like, thank you so much. We all know that, especially now in a pandemic, and we rely so heavily on technology. So be concise. Eliminate these sentences because seriously, they don't add anything, and they just give the message to the reader, whether that's me or a professor in another course or anything, that you're just adding fluff to your writing so you can reach the word count, okay? So avoid these sentences. Another problem, make your sentences shorter and use fewer words to express thoughts. Again, this being wordy and expressing a simple idea in so many words, this is not good writing. Good writing is concise, is to the point, especially in academic writing. I'm not talking about creative writing. That's not my area, so I cannot really say much about it. But in academic writing, in college writing, what professors are expecting from you is direct, concise, to the point writing, okay? Let's look at next. It made my opinion change. This sounds familiar, right? You write this all the time. A better way and a more concise way to say this is it changed my opinion. That's it. Why it made my opinion change? Why not change my opinion? You see, fewer words. But again, wordiness is a problem in many of us. The second thing is sometimes we think that this is a good way to reach the word count. Believe me, reaching the word count of the essay without having a good substance, idea development, organization, support, and things like that is meaningless. And it's not going to get you anywhere or get you any more points. There are 3 reasons why I like AUM website. Anytime you catch yourself using things like why or when or what or these words in the middle of the sentence, normally there's an easier and shorter and simpler way to say this. Sorry, the subtitles are covering this. I like AUM website for 3 reasons. Done. That's one of my favorites. Look at this. My AUM page is useful because it provides students with lots of important information. I've read a variation, like much variation of this sentence in many of your essay drafts. Are you ready? My AUM page is informative. That's it. When you say it provides students with lots of important information, what does this mean? It's informative. It gives information. So one adjective, one word replaced all this. You see, very easy. You can say useful and informative if you want to add a word, the word useful here. And that's it. You don't need all these words to express a simple idea. The other thing is, and again, I noted this a lot in your writing, don't rely on a spell check. Spell check is evil, I'm telling you. It can be useful sometimes, but look at these 2 examples. The weather is awesome today, which it is, by the way, unless it rains. The weather is awesome today. None of these sentences will have any underlined or marked content in your essay from spell check in Word. Why? Every single word is spelled correctly. But which one of them is correct, actually, is a correct sentence? Of course, the first one, because the second one is whether, which means if. So it shouldn't be this word. It's correct, it's written correctly, but it's not the right context. It's not the right word that you want to use here. So use a dictionary if you're not sure, or don't just rely that, oh, I don't have anything underlined in red or blue or green or anything. Don't do that. Read, and that's why I said read in a hard copy. Read on paper, because this will allow you to catch these mistakes much easier and faster. And then this is where I'll get to talk about our post for this week. Be careful with long sentences and check your punctuation. The most problematic thing I've seen in your punctuation usage is comma uses. So I've seen lots of things, either comma commas are not used, are overused, are used in the wrong place, are used in place of a semicolon. So the example I use here, when I wake up in the morning, I always feel tired. I usually have a headache. This is a run-on sentence. That's it. Run-on sentence means that you should either split the sentence into two sentences with a period in between, or change the place of your commas. Look at this. I wake up in the morning. When I wake up in the morning, I always feel tired. These are two clauses in the same sentence. You are connecting them with when, so that's why you use comma in between. And then this is an explanation of the why you always feel tired. So you can either use semicolon here to add the explanation, or use a period and start a new sentence. Semicolon is much better here. And this gets us to what you have on your for your discussion post 8, which is going to be due on Tuesday. You have on Blackboard, you have a new folder called resources here, a new content area called resources. And here you have comma usage. I have added 3 links with a lot of rules for comma usage. And the first one here is amazing because it has an example or a bunch of examples for each comma usage rule. Okay, so make sure that you go over these. And then here, this is going to be similar to what I just showed you, the difference between using comma and semicolon, when to use each in a sentence. And then these are some additional comma rules. You can skip that part, or if you have time, you can go over it. What I'd like you to do after that is to look at your essay draft and find at least one example of wrong comma use in your paper. And then you will get that example out, you'll put it in your discussion, you'll mark it as what's wrong with this, and then correct it. And then the second point in this week discussion, or in the first discussion for this week, is going to be what other editing problems, what other sentence level problems have you noticed in your paper? Do you have verb tense? Do you have run-on sentences? Do you have word choice? Do you have wordiness, like sentences that are written in so many words but can be made much shorter and simpler? So find another example of these and fix it. Like put it in your post and let us know how you're gonna make it much better. Okay, you can, I personally prefer that you use examples from your Unit 2 essay draft, but feel free to bring other examples from other papers and other courses, because what we learn here, you're using in other courses. It's not limited to what we're doing here or the essays you write in this course. I hope this has given you a good idea on how to revise and edit your work. And it's not going to be just, again, for this essay, for this unit, or even for this course. It's for your entire writing at the university or outside the university. I hope this has been a good presentation and had good knowledge for you. And bye. See you.